Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Having a Menty Be with Sarah and Kim. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Kim, and today we're here to talk about therapy.
Yay, therapy! We'd like to start by clarifying that we're by no means mental health experts. This is our own individual takes on our own mental health challenges because we've both been dealing with mental health since we were young adults. On today's episode of Having a Menty Be with Sarah and Kim, we are going to talk about a new segment called the Menty Tea.
Yes.
So we had this idea of starting by talking every episode
Yeah.
about what our current therapy and mental health stats are and just like spilling the tea.
Yes.
TEA. Ha ha ha. Because T and B. Okay.
The tea might be hot or cold.
At this
I'm not sure how to describe it at this point.
It's probably not piping right now. I'm not gonna lie. Okay.
It's frigid.
Like the weather in Ohio.
Yeah, seriously. It's seasonally depressed.
Okay. So let's dish. Kim, tell us your tea.
So my current therapy that I'm working on, so my last therapy session, we talked about doing a podcast.
Nice.
And I told her that I was really excited about it, and she kind of asked me like why I wanted to do a podcast, kind of like what we talked about last time. And I kind of had this like epiphany while I was in her office that like I think one of the reasons why it appealed to me so much is that like since switching jobs like about a year ago, I don't do anything like outside of the house. Like I have like no sense of community. And so having a podcast kind of felt like maybe garnering a sense of community. Like even if nobody listens to this, even if
we're just shouting into the void.
Right, exactly. That maybe like one or two people will hear it. And then, that kind of develops a sense of community, or maybe we'll make a couple of people feel like they're not alone out there. And so I don't know.
That.
Yeah, so I talked about that. And I don't remember what else we talked about. Honestly, I think mostly we talked about the podcast stuff. How about you? What have you done in therapy?
Well, since I am in the middle of my Menty Bee, there has been a lot of therapizing going on.
Yes.
So I'm going to see my psychiatrist and I'm going to see my psychologist once a week apiece.
Mm-hmm.
And we also talked about the podcast. They were both very excited about the podcast and the idea of using talk to connect with others.
Yeah.
But I also, in exciting news, had my orientation finally at the hospital. But this is my story. So I'm driving down the freeway to get to the hospital.
Okay.
And I start having chest pains. And I'm in the middle of traffic and I'm in a middle lane and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then the pains start shooting down my left arm. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm having a panic attack because I'm too young to have a heart attack, right? And it was like literally a textbook heart attack, panic attack.
That's scary. Yeah.
It was not cool. And then I was like, how am I going to drive to this hospital every day for treatment for however many weeks I'm supposed to have treatment when I can't even drive one time?
Was it the drive that caused it? Do you know?
Yes, I think I'm becoming agoraphobic.
That's hilarious because I've also talked about that in therapy with my therapist. And she was like, Kimberly, how do you think agoraphobia starts? I was like, well, I hate all people. I never want to go anywhere. And my job allows me to telework most days. And so I take that option frequently.
I do not like to leave my house. I do not feel safe when I leave my house.
Same. And the drive thing. And that is one of the worst parts of the job is driving. That's why I like the telework, because I have such anxiety about the drive. And I was rear-ended, and that didn't help.
It's good times. But no, mostly we've been talking about my mental health and therapy and coping skills and things that I used to do with students when I taught special education.
Yeah.
My therapist is making me do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I not know that I needed to do these things too?
Oh, dude, my therapist says that to me all the time. She'll be like, okay, your students that you used to have, what would you have told them? And I'll be like, I would have told them this. And she's like, can you not tell yourself that? And I'm like, no.
Yes. And the other thing with therapy was Like, I was just bawling. Like, I just sat there and bawled for
Yeah.
like an hour. My therapist said something like, "Who are you trying to convince that you're actually struggling? Because I believe you."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm trying to convince myself that I'm trying. I don't know who I'm trying to convince, but I'm trying. I'm in the middle of it, but I am
Yeah.
trying.
I know we talked about like having an episode where we talked about like core beliefs, but whenever I am asking myself that question, because I do frequently look for like exterior affirmation that what I am doing and saying is not, you know, a load of bull.
Yeah.
Um uh it usually ties back to some kind of core belief that I have about myself that's negative.
Interesting. Okay. I guess that's it for today's Menty tea.
Okay, so today we're talking about therapy or going to therapy / our experiences with therapy. So, Sarah, what made you decide to get therapy?
Well, it was a little dramatic.
Okay.
So actually I've been to therapy like twice, but I don't count the first time.
Oh, like you were going to therapy for an extended period of time and then you stopped?
I don't know that I would say an extended period of time.
Was this when you were a kid? I feel like you told me.
No.
Okay.
My parents didn't believe in therapy when I was
Oh,
a
yeah,
kid.
yeah. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So when I first ran away from home, that's a
Okay.
story for another day.
Yeah.
'Cause what 19-year-old runs away from home, you might ask? Well, this one did.
Yeah.
I was going to a church and I did some air quote therapy with one of the pastors.
Okay.
And I don't really count that because
There wasn't a lot of like scientific, psychological.
correct.
Okay.
It was more like how to fix your relationship with God and
Yeah.
not how to fix.
So, like, your mental health is caused because your relationship with God isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so the first time I went to therapy, I was actually
For real.
For real. Yeah, I was actually just released from the hospital, and one of the conditions of my release from the hospital was that I would go to therapy. So I walked into my therapist's office and was like, "Hey, I'm here. I don't do feelings. Like, that's not my jam. So you can try to do therapy with me, and I'm here because I have to be, but I'd really rather not be."
You did the stereotypical person going to therapy.
I was forced to do this against my will.
Did you pout in a corner? Did you have emo hair? No, I'm just kidding.
I did not actually, but
Wait, you did have short hair that had like a blue stripe in it. You did have emo hair.
I did have emo hair then.
Uh,
It was bright blue and bright pink.
Did you wear all black? No,
I probably did because 90% of my wardrobe is black.
But okay, so you walked in, you were like, I don't want to do this. And
Yeah.
what did she say?
And she said, "Cool, let's talk about why not."
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice segue.
I know. I was like,
Did you talk about why not?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I was like, my feelings have always been problematic, and I've been more successful putting them in little boxes on the shelf than I have been. Like, when I was a kid, my feelings always got me into trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And my parents very much lived by there's like a verse that says like the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. And so like you don't listen to your feelings, you don't talk about your feelings, you just do the right thing.
Yes.
Because God told you to.
Yes. You seek guidance from God and he will tell you what to do.
Or in my case from my father, because
he was the voice of God.
He was God's voice to our family. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this episode.
It's okay. It's all right. We're getting into things. That's the point.
Yes, we are. I will say my parents have changed a lot since I was a child. So
yeah, same.
There's
same.
that.
They've matured a lot.
Yes. Mine have grown.
Yeah.
A lot. And I went for 17 years without having any communication with my parents.
Yeah.
And now I talk to my mom almost every day. So people do change.
Yes.
I believe in that. What made you start going to therapy?
I actually, so the job that we worked together was extremely stressful to me and emotionally draining. Like every day I would go home and feel emotionally drained. I would say on the daily to Tyler, my husband, I would say to him, I don't want to go to work. I hate my job. I don't want to go. And so like daily he was having to convince me to go to work. And
ouch.
Yeah. And I kind of got to so I looked for a new job. I got a new job. And I remember thinking, I don't want to fall into the same bad habits. Like, because I felt like when I was working at the job that we work together, that I was letting a lot of outside people affect my feelings and how I thought about myself. And
the external validation thing.
Yes, which I still struggle with to this day, but
Sames.
Yeah, so I felt like I had a lot of tumultuous relationships with people that I should have only been having professional relationships with. And it was affecting my like mental health. Like I would have anxiety, I would go home, I couldn't stop having like thoughts about it and like replaying conversations in my mind and like very perseverating thoughts.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So I decided to go to therapy. Oh, and Tyler and I were fighting every weekend. Like we were going to get divorced.
And having gone down that road before, that's
Yes.
not a fun road to go down.
No, it's not. Having seen it from the outside.
Ooh, yeah, that's true. You were there for that.
Yeah. But so that's why I decided to go to therapy. And I would say for the most part, it has helped.
So you were a willing participant in your therapy.
I was a willing participant. So I read this thing that was talking about how it takes people like 10 years from the point that they see that there's a problem to actually go to therapy. And that story that I was telling last time about when I got out of the car, I think that happened when I was like 21 or 22. And I didn't start going to therapy until I was in my early 30s.
I was 34 when I walked through the door and said, I don't want to be here.
I think I was like 30, I want to say like 32 or something like that when I went the first time, which I thought was interesting because it's like, it takes people so long to convince themselves.
Well, I thought like for the longest time, honestly, I thought it would mean that there was something wrong with me and that like I was somehow deficient if I couldn't fix myself.
Yeah.
Like, come on, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Get it together, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same thought about it. I think that's what took me so long to go because no one in my family went to therapy either.
I was the first person in my family to go to therapy.
I'm the only person. Well, I guess my sister went for a short period of time, but I'm the only person actively in therapy in my family. Although I have talked to all of them about getting into therapy, but I don't know how much good that's doing.
Well, I will say one of the biggest compliments I ever got from my mother was that she was proud of me for going to therapy.
Oh, wow. That's
because it helped me become a healthier person.
Yeah, that's very nice.
When I think about my childhood, that shocks the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's nice though. It's nice to get, it is external validation.
It is external validation, which we thrive on.
It is nice. I guess, I don't know. It's nice to have that kind of thing acknowledged.
That's true, because you put in a lot of work.
You do. And sometimes it's hard for you to acknowledge it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
My therapist says that a lot. She's like, especially when I get down in the dumps, we'll just call it that for now, and I go to a therapy session, and she's like, Kimberly, you're not looking at how far you've come. Because when I first sat down in her office, I was an emotional wreck. Like, I couldn't do anything. I can say today, I'm not having a Menty bee right now.
That's okay. Even if you go to therapy for many, many years, you can still end up having a Menty bee.
Oh, it is cyclical. You do cycle.
I do cycle.
But today I can say with a clear mind that I feel like I have made progress. But it's hard to remember that when you are having a Menty bee or when you are struggling.
Well, one of the things that I will say is great about having a support system while you're having a Menty bee is because, like, my therapist knows me.
Yeah.
So when I walk into her office, she's like, you're not okay.
Yes.
And so, like, other people will believe the pat answers that I give them. And there are times when I'm like, okay, the right answer to how are you doing is I'm okay. It's hard, but I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can walk into my therapist's office and I can say, I am a train wreck today and I don't know if I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, let's break it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. I don't know. It's like, it's not a friendship. It's professional. Like, we wouldn't go have coffee.
Right. I know exactly what you mean, but it's like a safe space.
It's a safe space where
100%.
And I will say, it was not always a safe space for me because how I ended up in therapy. Do you want to talk about how I ended up in therapy?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. How I ended up in therapy was I was hospitalized with postpartum depression. So the last time I had a Menty B, I had postpartum depression and I ended up in the hospital. And it was, for me, it was almost a traumatic experience. So I had gone to my GP to ask for like a boost of antidepressants because I was taking antidepressants already because I had had postpartum depression with my first daughter.
Yeah. Had you been taking antidepressants the whole time?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they had what was I taking? I was taking Celexa because it was supposed to be like safe to take during pregnancy.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking right now.
Oh, I liked it. It was fine until I maxed out and I went to my doctor. And they were like, yeah, we can't give you any more. And I was like, what? I need more.
Okay.
And then they were like, you should probably go to the ER just to get checked out, just to make sure that everything's okay. And I was like, and they were like, they'll have more resources to help you. And I was like, well, I need help. I need more resources. So my husband was actually with me that day. And so he went from the doctor's office, he took me to the ER. And I talked to like a social worker at the ER and told her what I had told the doctor. Kind of like, was like, obviously I'm not going to do anything, right, to hurt my kids. I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah.
But they don't know me. They don't know that I wouldn't do anything.
Right.
And so they were like, why don't you give your husband your keys and your stuff, and then he can meet you over at the residential, because obviously I was being admitted at that point.
Did they tell you where they were going to admit you, or they didn't say anything to you?
No, they told me I was going to be admitted, but what they didn't tell me was that like I was going to be taken by a police car, in the back of a police car.
So they essentially pink slipped you.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
So I was driven over in the back of the police car thinking I would meet my husband when I got there.
Yeah.
Got there. And then they were like, well, he can come at visiting hours tonight at 6. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? He has my phone. He has my ID. He has all of my stuff.
Right, yeah.
And they were like, well, he can come during visiting hours, but you are in treatment now. And I just started to cry. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I felt like a prisoner. And it was really traumatic.
Like your autonomy was taken away. Your choices were taken away.
Completely. And I felt like...
So they believed in the emergency room that you were a danger to your daughter or your some other people? Okay.
Which is why I had learned over time, like, to be very careful with my word choice.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point this time where I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital. As bad as it was last time, I think I need to go to the hospital. And that's how I knew I was feeling bad.
Okay. And did you call your therapist and tell her, like, what was the first thing you did?
I texted my therapist and said, I need an appointment. I'm having a really hard time. And so she got me an emergency session the next day.
Okay.
I went and saw her, and she called my psychiatrist, and my husband was there, and we had a meeting with all of us together.
Yeah, I've done that before too.
And they said, are you a danger to yourself or others? And I said, no, I'm not going to do anything. I promise.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the comfort of having a relationship and a support team comes in.
Yeah. Because they know you well enough to know if you are or aren't going to do something to hurt yourself or someone else. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this time, there are different frustrations than last time. But this time, I don't feel the trauma of feeling like I'm being arrested and having my autonomy taken away from me and things like that.
But you're doing outpatient treatment this time instead of inpatient.
Correct.
So when you went to your orientation, what did they do? Did they just like go through like a treatment plan?
Not even. They were like, here's what we do here. And I was like, cool.
Oh, okay. So it was just like...
I read the FAQ and they reread the FAQ. And I was like, I'm so glad I had a panic attack and drove downtown for this.
So are you going back to another...
Yeah, I have intake on Monday.
Okay, at the same place? Or is it telehealth? Okay.
No, they don't do telehealth. You have to be in person.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. But...
Yeah. So it's like a
Okay.
2-hour intake with a psych.
Okay.
So,
Well, I hope it goes well.
and this is a very real conundrum that I have right now. I'm weighing how honest to be with that psych that doesn't know me, because I don't want to get pink slipped again.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to have panic attacks driving downtown every day for however many days.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's the best.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You do kind of learn. I didn't necessarily learn that like on my own. Honestly, I kind of learned that from you a little
Happy
bit.
to help. Happy to help.
But also in my job, like I've had a lot of people that I worked with get pink slipped. That's the only reason I really know what that is, and kind of learned that
I
like
did not know what that was until
Yeah.
it happened to me.
That there's some things you can say and some things you can't say too. I don't want it to come across like we're saying like hospitalization is a bad thing
No, because
or
this
like
time
treatment is a bad thing.
No, because this time I genuinely was seeking it out.
Yeah.
I just think if there had been better communication, I would have been more accepting of it last time. I think, retrospectively. It's hard to say, honestly. I was in a bad headspace.
Well, I feel like you're not the only person who has told me that hospitalization has been like I have one person on my caseload at my job now, and he told me that it was one of the most traumatic experiences of his life. But yeah, so I would say you're not the first person that I have heard that story from.
And I feel like that's sad because
It
the
is.
purpose of hospitalization is to help.
Yeah.
And I was reaching out asking for help. And in the end, good came from it.
Right.
Like I got connected with my therapist who I like, and I got connected with my psychiatrist who I love. Like they're both wonderful humans. They've both helped me tremendously. But
the fact that you're hesitating because it was a traumatic experience so that you have to weigh it in your mind is sad. Because it, like you said, it should be something that is there to help you. So people aren't going to reach out for help if they're scared of the result of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people do want help and people do need help.
Yeah.
And this time, because I'm not a danger to myself or others, I'm waiting a long time. This is my 4th week off of work.
Yeah.
Before I'm actually able to enter a treatment program.
What are you currently talking about in therapy right now? Or like, what have you been, because you stopped going to therapy for a while, right?
I didn't stop going per se.
Or we're going like less or something?
I was going significantly less. Okay, maybe I stopped going. I had like graduated-ish. Like I had accomplished all of my goals.
Okay.
And so my therapist was like, why don't you come for a check-in every once in a while and see?
Uh-huh.
So prior to this, Menty B, the last time I'd been to therapy was in October.
Okay. So it had been a couple months.
It had been a couple of months. Yeah.
Okay. So when you went back in to therapy, like what kind of stuff did you start working on like right away?
So today, Kim, in therapy, we are working on guilt and how I feel guilty about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can make light of it, but honestly,
yeah.
I apologize a lot. I compulsively apologize. I blame it on being Canadian.
Yeah.
Because we're polite. But at the end of the day, when I had my emergency session with my therapist, my husband was there, and she said, we need to work on guilt. You have a lot of guilt. And then I went to my psychiatrist, and my husband was also there. And she said, you really need to work on your guilt. Yeah. And my husband started to laugh, and she was like, why are you laughing? And I was like, because that's what my therapist said.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right now we're working on coping skills.
Okay. So kind of, is that more of like a review? Like you're going back over things? Because I have noticed sometimes when I am having a very hard depressive episode that I tend to forget all of that stuff. Yes. I am like, and then I'll go to a therapy session and she'll be like, okay, did you do this? And I'm like, no, I did not. I
forgot that existed.
Thank you for bringing this to the forefront of my mind. I'm currently thinking with my brainstem and nothing else.
Yeah. Well, and we are working on things like self-regulation when I am upset. and when I am
Okay.
overwhelmed and
So
when
being able to recognize that?
I'm very aware because I'm having panic attacks and I'm having like so much anxiety that I have diarrhea almost daily.
Mhm.
Sorry, TMI.
No, you're okay.
I feel sick to my stomach. I went out for dinner the other night and there was a crowd of people. I had another like panic attack. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to describe it. Like you have chest pains. That's not normal. And then I felt very badly because it was someone's birthday and nobody else in the restaurant was upset. The whole restaurant sang happy birthday and I was sitting there in myself, shaking, panicking, wishing I was at home because I did not feel safe.
Yeah.
So, currently working on survival skills.
Yeah.
You know, like it took me 2 weeks to get a piece of paper printed out, to like get up the courage to go get a piece of paper printed at the UPS store. Shout out to the UPS store.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And then my friend was like, "Why didn't you just email it to me? I would have printed it for you." And I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I should have done that."
But then we get back to you are encouraging yourself to be agoraphobic. But I will say right now, I do think that, I mean, I don't know what your therapist is telling you, but I do think there are times when you do need to be able to have a safe space because nothing feels safe. So I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with wanting to be at home and asking people to help you so that you can stay in your safe space a little bit and heal.
Yeah. We're working on healing right now.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So
it's weird when you talk about like the things that you're talking about in therapy because like even when I'm not having like some kind of major depressive episode or anything, we still talk about these things like regularly in therapy.
I wish this audio captured my face right now.
Yes. Yeah, like so much of like I don't know. I feel like a lot that like when I go to therapy, we rehash a lot. That sounds so stupid to say, but it is a lot of rehashing of like,
oh, I know what I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading this book right now.
Yeah.
Right? I have made it past chapter 5.
Oh, wow.
Mazel tov to me, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so I'm reading this book right now.
Okay.
And one of the things it talks about, which when I told my psychiatrist, she was like, "Yeah, that's basic neuroscience." It was talking about how like when you're in crisis, like your brain goes in like autopilot mode.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So the parts of your brain that are so ingrained from like childhood and your youth and like the pathways that have already been there are what you default to, even though you cognitively know that is an illogical thing.
Yes.
So like that's probably going back to some core belief things, right? But like cognitively, I know my rational brain is not fully functional right now.
Yes.
I know this, and yet I still allow my less than rational brain to influence me.
Yes. Okay, so you were talking the thing you're talking about like using your like rational cognitive, so that like frontal lobe, the frontal cortex, the judgment and decision making part of your brain. Okay, so in my line of work, so there's this lady that does a ton of trainings in my line of work, and this is not her idea, but I've seen so many trainings of her talking about. It's called the hand brain. And so like where you're like this is so your hand being open, that's your brain online, and your hand being closed, that's your brain offline. And she talks about how when you're in that like fight or flight, like survival, that you are always in like brain off. You're thinking with your brain stem, essentially, like you're thinking with that like survivalist brain. And so it's very important when you're doing like trauma informed care to ask people like how you can help instead of telling them things like you need to calm down or being like what's wrong with you. Because
there's a lot wrong with me right now.
People are not necessarily thinking with like you said, like that prefrontal cortex part of your brain. I
keep looking at my fist because it kind of looks like half of a brain.
It does. I think that's why they came up with it that way. But she talks about like, well, you said you were doing grounding. So earlier you were talking about how you were doing grounding techniques in therapy.
Yes.
And
how I used to do them with my students.
Yes.
And how I was like feeling like a bit of a dumbhead that I couldn't figure it out for myself, that I needed to ground myself.
Yeah. My therapist says this thing where she's like, sometimes it's the people who know, because of exactly what you're talking about. When your rational thinking brain is online, it's exactly what we saw with the students we taught, right? Like, they could tell us, don't you remember those kids we would ask, what do you do if you're upset? And we'd be like, you ask to go for a walk, you go get a drink of water, like you take a break or whatever, like that.
Sure.
And they could tell you that.
Recite them.
They could tell you word for word. And when somebody else was upset, one of their friends, they would look at them and they'd be like, hey man, just ask to go for a break or whatever, ask to go for a walk. But when they're in that same situation where their brain is offline, they could not for the life of them pull up one of those coping skills.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, when you're emotionally escalated, you cannot pull forward that like judgment part of your brain. It just doesn't happen. You go into fight or flight, you start making decisions based on instinct.
Well, thank goodness for neuroplasticity, because I'm still hopeful that I'm at some point going to internalize a coping technique.
Yes.
That is effective.
I'm sure you have.
When I am in freeze mode.
I'm sure that you have, at least somewhat. It's just hard to access them when you're having a Menty bee.
I will say, I did, as I was driving and having a panic attack, I was like, I think I'm having a panic attack. And then I was like, maybe I'm not having a panic attack, because if I know it's a panic attack, then maybe it's not a panic attack, but also my arm is tingling, so that's not normal.
Yeah. It was good that you could at least somewhat identify it, and that you had enough trust in yourself to maybe know that you needed to pull over or something.
I did not pull over because I was afraid I would never get back on the freeway because traffic was going quite quickly.
Oh, okay.
So I just drove through it.
All right.
And figured, let the chips fall where they may.
Oh, man.
Aren't you so glad you don't drive with me?
I'll drive you next time. I mean, I will drive you if you want me to, but...
What are you doing on Monday?
I don't know. I might have to go in for a meeting. I gotta look and see.
Well, that's it for this episode of Having a Menty Bee with Sarah and Kim. We wish you good mental health, and we hope you'll meet us here again next time. Don't forget to like or subscribe or leave a positive review or whatever it is you do for podcasts.
We hope you have heard something in this episode that you have connected with and you've been mildly entertained. If you are dealing with your own mental health challenges, we both encourage you to reach out to a trusted provider or call or text 988.